Hi, I'm Darlene Walton, and here we are ready for lesson 2. I hope you're ready to have some more fun and to learn a lot of new things. Together, we're going to learn today what the different types of notes are, and we're going to play the actual Ode to Joy instead of Ode to Sadness. We're going to start lesson 2 today by learning the different types of notes. Again, if you're just joining us, be sure you print off the printable pages from this lesson so that you can have them in your hand and they'll be easier for you to look at than on your computer screen. We're going to start with the quarter note. Now, it doesn't really matter which note it is. They're going to be C, D, or E, or A, B, or C, because those are the notes we've learned so far. So it just so happens that these are C's. First thing you look at when you're starting to play the music is the time signature. That's going to tell you how many beats are in each measure and what kind of note is going to get one beat. So we see this is 4/4 time, which is the most common time. And sometimes they will just use a C there instead of 4/4 because it is the most common time. That means the top number means there's 4 counts in a measure, and the bottom number means that a quarter note gets 1 count, which is the most common thing. But it can change, as you'll find out later on. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Start over at the bar line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, all the way through the whole song. Now the common mistake is to pause at the bar line. So you're saying 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's something you don't want to do. You want to keep that continuously going in your mind. That would be like singing, Mary had a little lamb. And that's not the way we do it. So you want to continuously count. Now if you catch yourself pausing, it's probably because you're not familiar with the notes or you haven't figured out the counting exactly correctly yet. So that's okay, but try not to do that if you can keep from it. So we have the quarter note, which has a stem and is colored in. And that is the way the quarter note always looks. And no other kind of note is going to look exactly like that. Now it doesn't matter which note it is, which one of these lines or spaces it lives on. If it's a black note with a stem colored in like that, it is a quarter note. The next type of note is a half note. Now a half note gets 2 counts. So you can see it's not colored in, it's white on the inside, and it has a stem. So it's going to get 2 counts. So you're going to play that note, and as you play it, you're going to say 1, 2, and then play the next one, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now since we're having 4 counts in a measure, you can fit 2 half notes in that measure. Or you could fit a half note and 2 quarter notes. Or you can fit 4 quarter notes because you have 4 counts. So you continue to count, and whatever the note is, that's how you count. And we'll get to some mixed up counting in just a little bit. Okay, we're going to go to our left hand down here, and you're going to see the left hand is the same scenario. You have half notes down there that get 2 counts each. So you're going to play those 1, 2, 3, 4, B, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, B, 2, and so on, until you get to the end of the line or the end of the song. Now we're going to play this when I'm done explaining it, so we'll all be able to play it on our harps. The next type of note is a whole note. Now just as it sounds, a whole note takes up the whole measure. And it looks like this. It has no stem. Very easy to recognize a whole note. It's just a little circle that's not colored in. and it takes up the whole measure. So you only have room for one whole note in there. If you have a whole note, you don't have room for any quarter notes or any half notes or any other kind of note. You just have a whole note. So you would play the C, and you always play the note as you count 1. So you would play C, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now we're going to talk about eighth notes. And an eighth note gets 1/2 count. A quarter note gets 1 count, and an eighth note is half as long. You can kind of think of it as a pizza. And if you cut a pizza into 4 parts, each person is going to get 1/4. If you cut it into 8 parts, each person is going to get 1/8, or half as much as 1/4. That's why it's good for the child to have a little bit of an idea of some math before they start to take any kind of music lesson, because they are more able to figure out the fractions. You know, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note. It's a little easier for them to get that concept. Okay, an eighth note gets half a count. So in order to be able to count that evenly, we're going to put an and in there. Now it's just the same as saying 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't say 1 and 2 and. You have to say the and in between the counts. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The eighth notes are half as long. So you can get 8 eighth notes in one measure. You could get 4 eighth notes and 2 quarter notes. You could get 4 eighth notes and a half note. Anything that adds up to 4 counts, you can get into a measure. And they do mix those all up. Otherwise you would have no rhythm in your songs. They would all sound the same. So the timing of these notes and the different types of notes make the rhythm in your song. You will learn dotted notes and things later on, and all of this adds to the beautiful rhythms that we have in all the types of music that we know today. So these are eighth notes, and we're not going to go any farther than that right now, because I don't want you to overload your brain. Okay, now we're going to play these with your harp, but first I want to go through this part. Okay, these are the mixed up versions of what we just did. I didn't put the and in there unless there are eighth notes in that measure, because you really don't need to do that. The thing to remember is to count at the same speed all the time. You don't want to start out and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And some people, if they have a whole note, they don't want to hold on to that whole note for 4 counts. So if they have a whole note, they rush through that and let it go before it's time. So you want to guard against doing that and start right out counting evenly all the time through all the measures. So you're counting along 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you're really counting at the same speed whether you say the and or not. That's just for the purpose of making it easier for you to put the eighth notes in there. So let's pick up our harps, and we will go over this page and the page that we just did previously and practice this. We're going to play these pages that we just went through on our harps. We're going to play them one line at a time so that you can try each type of note separately. We're going to play the C's and then the D's and then the E's, A's, B's, and C's, counting as we go, very evenly and very slowly. Okay, before we start, I want you to get your hand position right. So pretend like you're shaking hands. Turn it over so your palm is facing the floor. Your wrist is straight. Kind of curve your finger down so you're going to hit with just that little edge of your finger before you get to your fingernail. And then your thumb is going to go down over the top to that middle knuckle, just like that. Now remember, when you close your fingers, they're already going to be closed in this case, but they're going to be down low into your palm, not up here like this. We don't want anybody to look like the crab. So put your fingers down low. The only one you need right now is your index finger, but that's going to change very shortly because we're going to learn fingering next. Okay, let's try this first line. We're going to start. I'll give you a 1, 2, ready, play very slowly, and we'll stop after the first line. And it starts on middle C. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, B, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're going to try the half notes. I know this is a little bit boring, but we will get to the good stuff pretty soon. So just hang in there. Okay, we're going to try the half notes now. Remember, a half note gets 2 counts. So unlike a piano, you can't hold your finger on the string for 2 counts. So you have to pluck it and then just count. On a piano or a horn or some other instrument like a violin, you can actually hold that sound of that note for 2 counts. But you can't do that on a harp, so you just have to count it out. Okay, I'm going to give you 4 to go on. And it starts on an E. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4. Next line. C, 2, 3, 4, B, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, B, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very good. Remember when you pluck to give it a nice follow through. Pluck it rather firmly and put your finger right back into your palm. Don't give it a little weenie pick like that, because it doesn't sound good and it doesn't look good either. Okay, let's try the whole notes. They'll go by pretty quickly. Just that last line there, and then we'll go ahead to the 8th notes. Now remember, the whole note takes up the whole measure. Okay, here we go. It starts on a C. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, B, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're going to do the 8th notes. Let me switch to the next page and then we'll continue on. Alright, now we're going to practice the 8th notes. We only have 1 line of those, and then we have the mixed notes coming, which will be a real challenge. Okay, let's try the 8th notes, and now we're going to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I will give you that before we start to play. Okay, keep your mind on which note you're playing also, don't forget. 1 and 2 and 3, ready, play. C and 2 and 3 and 4 and D and 2 and E and 4 and D and 2 and 3 and 4 and C and 2 and A and 4 and B and 2 and C and 4 and A and 2 and B 4, and. Very good. Okay, now we're going to try the mixed up notes and the mixed up time values. Now what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to count very softly as we go, and we're going to stop after the first line. So if you get lost, at least you won't be lost for too long. And I'm going to just let you read the notes as you go, and I will be counting so you'll be able to tell where you're at on that line. When we get to the end of the line, we're going to stop, and then we'll start on the next line altogether. Remember, if you can't get this the first time, you can take as long as you want and review this over and over again until you feel comfortable with it. Okay, I'm going to give us a 1, 2, ready, play very slowly, and we're going to play this. Remember, we're just using the one finger on each hand still. Okay? All right, here we go. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay. We're ready to move on to the second line now, and we're going to do the same thing with the second line. I'm going to give us a very slow 1, 2, ready, play, and we're going to do it just like we did the first line. Be careful because this one changes from your right hand to your left hand frequently. Now you want to keep your hands close so that they can be ready to go up there when it's their turn. You might not want to keep them right up there like that because that looks a little funny sometimes, even though I tend to do that. Or you don't want to put them down on your lap either, because then they're so far away, you look like a juggler when you're getting them ready to play. So the proper thing to do is to put them right here on the soundboard so they're ready to play. So if you can get into the habit of doing that, that's good. If you need them to play very quickly after one another, then you need to keep them close. Okay, here we go with line 2. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Very good. Let's try the last line now. It's a little bit more challenging. So I divided it up into 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and all the way through the whole line because it's a little bit mixed up and more tricky for you. Remember, if you didn't get the previous line, you can always put the video on pause and review it as many times as you need to, today or tomorrow or anytime you want. Okay, this one starts out on your left hand with eighth notes. Then it switches to your right hand, back to your left hand. This part's still okay, kind of like what we did before. These last two measures are where it gets tricky. You start with an eighth note, which just gets 1. Then you have a quarter note, which gets and 2. Then you have another eighth note, which gets and. Then you have a quarter note, which gets 3 and 2 eighth notes that get 4 and. The last measure has a quarter note, 1 and, then an eighth note which gets 2, quarter note which gets and 3, another quarter note gets and 4, and an eighth note gets and. Now if you have trouble with these two measures, I have had students that have trouble with their timing, and I have circled that note in with the counts that that note gets. So you kind of divide it up into 4 little circles, or however many notes you have, and then it's easy to see which counts are attached to that note. So if you have big problems with that and you need to do that, just take a pencil and circle the note that is attached with the beats that go with it. Okay, we're going to try this one very, very slowly. So I'm going to give us our 4 count and we're ready to go. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Very good. We're ready to talk about some different time signatures now and rests. But first I want to introduce you to my little Yorkie, Roy, otherwise known as Rody Roon. And he's kind of a pill. So if you hear some rattling or some kind of strange noises during your lesson, he's probably off somewhere doing something he shouldn't be doing. So we'll see if he can sit on my lap and be a good little boy through this segment while I tell you about the different time signatures. Okay, we already talked about 4/4 time. Remember, the top number indicates the beats per measure and the bottom number indicates which kind of note gets a beat. So this is what we just went over on those other two pages. Now we're going to talk about 3/4 time. Okay, the top note has changed. It's now a 3. The bottom number is still 4, so a quarter note still gets a count, and there's 3 beats in a measure. So instead of counting to 4, you're going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and so on. 2/4 time has 2 counts in a measure, and a quarter note still gets a count. So you're going to count 1, 2, 1, 2, or 1 and 2 and so on. You normally don't have a whole note in 2/4 time because a half note takes up the whole measure, so there's really no need to have a whole note. Over here you see a dotted note. Now there's also a dotted note up here, so I need to explain to you what those are. A dot after a note makes it worth half again as much as it was to start with. So if you have a half note with a dot, instead of getting 2 counts, it gets 3. If you have a quarter note, which normally gets 1 count, and it has a dot after it, it gets 1.5 counts. Now the dot has to be after the note, not above it or below it. That means something entirely different that we'll talk about later, so make sure it's right after the note. Normally when you have a dotted quarter note, you have another half a count to go. So there's usually an eighth note following it. So it would be 1 and 2 and. Now 6/8 time has 6 and an 8. This is totally different than what you've been taught so far. So now we have 6 counts in a measure, and a quarter note no longer gets 1 count, but an eighth note gets 1 count. So you're going to have your mind think in a totally different way to play 6/8 time. You're going to be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Usually you emphasize the 1 and the 4. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you have 6 eighth notes to make a measure, or if you want a whole measure taken up, it takes a dotted half note, because a half note is going to get 4 counts, and then the dot is going to get another 2, which makes 6. Or you can have 3 quarter notes. Instead of getting 1 count now, a quarter note gets 2 counts. So it takes 3 of those to make your 6 counts. Or you could have 2 dotted quarter notes, which get 3 counts each, because you're going to add another count on. So that takes your 6 counts. So that is 6/8 time. Here we have some more examples of 6/8 time. And the reason I put extra examples of 6/8 time is because this seems to be the one that more of my students have a problem with, just because it's totally different from anything where the quarter note gets a count. So you can go over these and practice these counts. I made all the notes in F Doesn't really matter what note you play. You can even clap it out if you want to. It's just getting the counting down so that you're familiar with the time values of the notes and the different time signatures. I wanted to talk a little bit about rest too, because until now we just haven't paid any attention to what's in the measure where there are no notes. And there's always either a note or a rest. So I want to tell you what the different rests are, because sometimes you will have just rest, especially if you're playing in an ensemble group. There are some times when the harp doesn't play. It just sits there and counts. So you have to know how many counts those rests get so that you'll know when to come back in. It's very important that you learn this also. Most of the time you don't pay a lot of attention to it because you're playing notes all the way through, and so the rests are just automatically in there. So you just sort of ignore them. But they also have time values, so we're going to go over that for you. The quarter note rest gets one count. So you would just rest one count. And it looks like a little bird flying kind of thing. It's very easy to recognize. The eighth rest over here is also very easy to recognize. Nothing else looks like that. You can also have a dotted rest, which gets the same value as the dotted note. It would get a count and a half, depending on your time signature. This is not as commonly found. Sometimes they'll put, instead of putting a dot, they'll put a quarter rest and an eighth rest together. So different composers use rests in different ways, but the time values are still the same. Okay, now we get down to the two that are the most hard to recognize. Okay, a half rest gets 2 counts if you're in 4 time, and it sits on that line. So if you could just remember, a half rest sits. It sits right on that line and it gets 2 counts. The whole rest hangs. It hangs down from that line. So you either have a half rest sitting or the whole rest hangs. I like that one. It's a little easier for me to remember. So if I can remember a whole rest hangs, then I can automatically know that the other one's a half rest, which sits. And some teachers will make a little cat shaped thing that sits like a cat. So you got your half rest and your whole rest. And you can go over these rests and these notes and count them out until you feel comfortable with those. We're going to talk about some new notes now. We want to learn some notes both for your right hand and for your left hand so that you can have a good repertoire of notes so you can play more songs. We're going to learn F, G, and A for your right hand. Last time we learned C, which is red, D, and E. Now we're going to go ahead up. F's are always blue. So we're going to learn F, G, and A. Okay, the first one here on your music is F, and it sits in the first space. Now there is a little rhyme you can use for these notes. You know, every good boy does fine for the lines, and F-A-C-E or face for the spaces. Right now you don't know all those notes yet. You do know every, the E part, and you're learning the F for face. But pretty soon when you learn all the notes, if you need a rhyme to help you remember them, that's a good one. So we're learning the F of face right now, and it's right on that first space. There's the F. The next note we're going to learn is G, and it's on the second line. So we learned the E, which is every. G would be good. Every good boy does fine makes up all of those lines. So G is on the second line, and it's right here next to the F. The next note up from that is A, and it's on the second space. So that's the second letter in the word face. So you've got your F and your A now. So it's easy to count up the spaces. The next one's going to be C in the next space, and then E in the next one, which we're going to learn later. So we have F, G, and A. What kind of notes are those? We just learned that. Quarter notes. We have 4 times, so they get 1 count. The next line, we have F, G, and A in half notes. They get 2 counts each. The next line has the same 3 notes in eighth notes. So they get a half a count. So we're going to be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then we have the easy to recognize whole notes. which take up the whole measure. Over here, we've got those 3 notes all mixed up. So we're going to practice both of these pages. I think I'm going to let you do this one on your own because it's rather easy and you can count those out and practice your counting as you do that. We're going to concentrate on this page here. So I'm going to move this over here to the middle. Okay, now this one has the notes all mixed up, and we're going to practice those and count very slowly. We're still using just our second finger, and that's going to change here in just a few minutes. So let's practice these notes, and I'll let you do the counting, and I'll say the notes for you. Okay? 1, 2, ready, play. F, G, A, F, 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 G, F, G, F, 4, G, G, F, A, F, 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 G, 2, A, 4, F, F, A, G, 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 A, G, F, G, A, F, F, 2, 3, 4. A, G, 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 2, F, 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 G, A, G, F, G, G, F, 3, 4, and G, F. Let's try that last line again. It's tricky because I mixed up the timing pretty well in there, and I put a lot of eighth notes and quarter notes in strange places. So I'm going to give you 4, and this time I'm going to do the counting for you, and you can look at the names of the notes, and I will do the counting. Okay, I'll give you a slow 4. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's time to learn our left hand notes now, and last time we learned C, B, and A. So now we're going to learn G, F again, which is blue, and E. If you have a harpsichord, you only have 2 notes left to learn on the bottom. So we're going to learn G, F, and E. Or as it is on my paper over there, E, F, and G. Same difference. Okay, we're going to start with the G, and those are quarter notes. And you see they're on the first space down there. Now the little rhyme for the left-hand notes, there's 2 different ones you can use. If you live in the country, you can use all cows eat grass. And if you're more of a city dweller, you can use all cars eat gas. So either one you like is fine. They both spell the same thing. And this is the G at the top of the space. So it's either grass or gas, depending on which you use. Okay, so that's your G. It's the only note that lives in that space. Okay, then we go to F, which is this blue one here. Now F is on the second line. Now I didn't tell you the rhyme for the lines yet on the bass clef. There's 2 different ones you can use there. I like the one that said, good basses don't fall apart. And the only reason I like that over the other one is because good boys do fine always is very similar to the right hand line one, which says every good boy does fine. So good basses don't fall apart is totally different, and you don't get the 2 confused. You can use whichever one you want, or neither. Okay, we've already learned the A, which is apart, and now we're learning good basses don't fall, which is the F. So we've learned G, and F is on that second line down, and then we're going to learn E, which lives in the second space. which is all cows eat. And it's also eat. All cars eat gas. So it's eat no matter which way you look at it. Okay, so we've got G, F, and E. Those are quarter notes. These are what kind of notes? Half notes. They get 2 counts. These are eighth notes. So we're going to be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and those are whole notes. And they each get 4 counts, or the whole measure. So you can practice those on your own until you feel comfortable with those. We're going to play the mixed up version now of the notes we've just learned. G, F, and E. We're still using just our number 2 finger. Make sure your hand position is right, your fingers are down low into your palm, your thumb is over that knuckle, and your wrist is nice and straight. Okay, I'm going to do the counting this time. So I'll give us a slow 4, and then we'll begin. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and second line. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and third line. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and next line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Excellent. That last line is a little bit tricky, so we're going to try that again. We're going to do it very slowly, and I'm going to give us a 4 to start on. I'll do the counting, and remember, just your second finger. Okay, here we go on just the last line. 1, 2, ready, play. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I think you've got it. Now the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to use more than one finger. We're going to show you some fingering and placing or bracketing. If you've looked at harp music in the past, you've probably seen these little brackets and wondered what those are for. This type of fingering is unique to the harp. You don't do it with the piano. You're more of a hovering person if you play piano. You're there and your fingers are ready to play, but they're not actually on those keys until it's time for those keys to play. But they're in position. On the harp, you actually put your fingers on the string before it's time for them to play. And that way they're all set and your fingers can move smoothly over the harp strings. If you've ever watched these harp players play those big symphony harps, those fingers are just crawling over there like spiders and moving very smoothly. And it also helps you to not have to look at the harp so often. So we're going to start with some simple fingering. Okay, remember your thumb is number 1 and your index finger is number 2. So when you see this bracket, you're going to lay those down at the same time. So 2 is going to be on C and 1 is going to be on D. Now, remember your thumb has to be up, Your hand has to be in this position with those fingers tucked down nice and low into your palm. Keep your thumb well up, otherwise it's going to tend to do this. It happens almost every time with every person. And when you don't watch it, it'll slip down there and do it. Anyway, so try to keep it up there. Keep a nice open position there. Okay. What you do is let go of the C, put it away, and then let go of the D, put it away. Okay, then you replace. See the second bracket? You've got a C and a D. Put them back out. Do it again. Do not take the finger off the string until it's turn to play. The tendency is to place them and then take this off and pick. That's not what you want to do. You want to leave them on there firmly on the string and then take them off. Okay, that line is pretty much the same thing over and over, except it switches here and does the D first. So you play your thumb first and then your finger. Either way, you're still making the same motions, putting them away as you go. Okay, and then you're going to be trying that with your left hand. Same thing. C, what starts on a B, I think. B, C. Put them back. B, C. You want it nice high thumb. B, C, B, C. And then it switches from a C to a B. And it just does that a few times to give you some practice. So you can go over that section there until you feel comfortable with that movement. Then we're going to add a third finger, which is your middle finger. So now your third finger is going to be on the C, your second finger on the D, and your thumb is on the E. Now these fingers that are not in use here are going to go away. They're going to be put away into your palm. So they aren't sticking up in the air like that. That doesn't look very good. So we're going to have our hand looking like this. So we're going to play the C, put that finger away, play the D, and then play the E. Okay, try that again. C, D, E. Then start with the E and play it. E, D, C. E, D, C. Okay, let's try the left hand. We're going to start on A, B, C. A, B, C. And then we're going to play the C first. C, B, A. C, B, A. You want to play about in the middle of your harp. Some students tend to play way up here, way high, and that isn't a good place to play. It doesn't have the best sound there, and it's also a little harder to play up that high. You also don't want to play real low. You want to play right in the middle. That's where the best sound is. So try to keep your hands on a natural slant right down the middle of the harp when you're playing. We're ready to use all 4 of our legal harp fingers now. Remember, you don't use your little finger, so we're going to practice with the 4th finger now. What I have found is when you're lining your fingers up, sometimes you'll put 2 fingers on the same string. And that doesn't work too well. And you'll realize when you start to play that it doesn't make a sound because there's another finger on it stopping the sound. So be sure and check your fingers to make sure that you have 1 finger on each string before you start to play. Okay, now we're going to shift and put our 4th finger down on that C. Now when you have just your pinky sticking out, it's kind of hard to put it away. So it can travel with this 4th finger. So you can have your pinky right there with your 4th finger. You don't want it sticking up in the air. It looks like you're about to have tea. You just want it down, you know, comfortably with that 4th finger. So there you go. Remember, you're going to have these little edges of your finger playing. Straight wrist, thumb up, nice open palm. You don't want it squeezed up like this. And you don't want it turned sideways, which is what tends to happen. When you start to play, you're going along, you check it, you're really in a good position, and pretty soon you look and you're down like this. So don't worry, just fix yourself up and start off again, and pretty soon your brain will accept this new foreign thing. Okay, also, don't put a lot of finger in that string. As you can see, when you have more finger inside that string, you can't get it out in a good fashion, and then you end up hitting other strings that aren't meant to be played at that time. So use as small an edge as you can, and you will find the spot that is comfortable for your hand. Until you get used to this, you might stop yourself with the back of another finger because your hand has not figured out that little sweet spot where it can stay and play without hitting other strings. It takes just a little while to get used to this. Soon you'll be just doing it in your sleep and you won't have any problem figuring out where that hand needs to be. And it's just a little bit different for each person depending on how their fingers are. Okay, let's try these four. We're going to start on C, and then these two are going to get put away. C, D, E, and then that thumb goes over there. And there's your hand. Not like this, but all the way down. Let's try that again. Set them up nice and straight. Open that hand up as much as you can. C, D, E, F. Okay? And then we're going to start on the F and go down. F, E, D, C. Try that again. F, E, D, C. Okay? Let's try our left hand. Same thing. Again, a lot of people find that their left hand doesn't move as readily as their right hand, if they're right-handed. Left-handed people might find the opposite is true. And you just overcome that and learn to do it anyway. There really isn't a good alternate position for left-handed people. They usually learn to adapt. Okay, let's try this. C, B, A, G. Okay, then it goes back the other way. Well, there's two of those, but we'll go back the other way. G, A, B, C. Make sure your hand is put away correctly. G, A, B, C. And you can practice that as many times as you need to. And the rest of this page is just alternating between the two, right hand, left hand, and it starts differently. It might start with the C or the F, but it might go 3-1, 3-1. Just follow the fingering and practice the rest of that line. They're all quarter notes, and that'll be good practice in fingering for you. We are ready to do Ode to Joy now instead of Ode to Sadness because we know the rest of the notes to the song. We just learned them a few minutes ago. So we're going to try this song over here, and we're going to go through it first. Okay, it does have some brackets in it, or some placing. So we're going to be going through this song very slowly, one line at a time, and then of course you'll have all the time you need to practice it, anytime you want. And if this lesson is too much for you to take in all in one sitting, that's fine. You can just pause it, remember where you stopped, and come back later and finish the lesson if you need more time to go over some of the fundamentals. Okay, this starts on E, which is not a place note, it's just your third finger. Then you put that third finger right back and place your second and first finger. All this has to go down together. These are your counts, which is basically pretty evenly counted through the whole song. I've also put that C chord in there, like I did on the last lesson. I think it was Mary Had a Little Lamb. I put the C chord in. That is your last C down here if you have a harpsichord, or it's the C below middle C if you have a bigger harp. And there it is. It's every other note. Two of those you learned today, which is G and E. So you just put a C on it. And pull them out, put your hand back in the position. And as you also learned today, those are whole notes. So you just kind of play that note and let it ring. Okay, we're going to try this. We're going to try just the right hand for a few lines here and see how we get along with that. Okay, get your right hand up there. Now you can use more fingers than just the few. Okay, than just the one, I should say. Okay, here we go. We're going to set our hand up for 3 fingers. These 2 are put away. You don't need your 4th finger or your pinky. So the first finger you really don't have to place, but you can go ahead and put those down if you want to, if it's easier for you rather than going like this and then placing them, because that's a little bit tricky. Okay, so we're going to go. Now, as you see on the next measure, we have 4 to lay down. And it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's try that first line again. I'll give you 4 to start on. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3. Now place all 4 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now you're ready for the second line. And it's going to do the same thing, only down on the C. Let's start the second line. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you only have 2 to place. Okay, let's try that line again. 1, 2, ready, play. Okay, the third line is pretty much a repeat of the first line. So let's try the third line. Okay, and then the last line is just a little bit different. Let's try that one. Now you have to move that thumb down to D. We're going to look at the second page and the last page of this song now before we play it together. These 2 lines are the hardest in the whole song, so we're going to go over those. The placing is a little more difficult than the first and the last part of the song. Okay, you're going to start on D on your 3rd finger, so your little finger is put away. I mean your 4th finger and your little finger. So you're going to go 3, 3, 2 together, and then your 4th finger plays C. And then 3, 2, 1, 2, 4. 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 3 together. 4, 3, 1 note with your left hand. And then the rest of it is like the beginning. So let's try that. And then 4 place. 3. Okay, let's try the whole song now. I'm going to start at the beginning and we're going to do this very slowly. I'm going to put the chords in, which are just C, E, and G. 3rd finger, 2nd finger, 1st finger. If you're not comfortable with it, don't put the chords in. You can do that later. Okay? So place your fingers, get your 3rd finger ready to go, and we're going to play the song very slowly. I'll give you a 4 count. 1, 2, ready, play. Second page. Lefty. Last line on that page. Last page. Excellent. This is another song that I composed for your left hand. And it has the three notes we just talked about in it, C, B, and A. So let's play this song together very slowly. Remember, you're only going to use one finger from your left hand, and that's your index finger. The other ones will be put away into your palm, and your thumb will be over the top. Okay, I'm going to give you 1, 2, ready, play, and then we'll begin. 1, 2, ready, play. C, B, A, C, B, C, A, C, B, A, C, C, B, A. Second line, B, A, B, A, C, B, A, B, A, C, A, B, A, C. Third line, B, A, C, B, B, A, B, A, B, A, C, A, C, A, C, B, A, B, C, B, A, B, A, B, A, C, B, A, C, B, A, B, A. Very good. Our last song for lesson 2 is Are You Sleeping, Brother John? And it's subtitled I Hope Not, because this is rather a long lesson and I hope I haven't put you to sleep. You have learned a lot, and hopefully you'll go on to lesson 3 and continue to learn how to play the harp. This song is not so much difficult, but you'll notice up here where the fingering is, the brackets are gone. Well, as you become more advanced, most harp music does not have the brackets. They have the fingering, but they don't put the brackets on there. So when you see 3, 2, 1 together, you know that that's one bracket. And when you see 3, 2, 1 together, you know that's a bracket. When you see 3, 2, 1 together, you know that's a bracket. So as we go through this piece, you will see how the fingers group. Now sometimes there's a stray one out there which is not in a bracket, and you'll be able to figure that out, I think, as you go. If you need to take a pencil and put the bracket in there, feel free to do that. I just wanted to give you a taste of how the harp music is going to look in the very near future when you go out and buy some or find some online or whatever. You're not always going to get the brackets on there. And eventually the fingering won't be on there either. But that doesn't come for quite a while, so don't worry. Okay, let's go ahead and try to play this one. There is no left hand except for this couple of notes down there, and those are actually melody notes. So you kind of have to have those in there for the song to sound right. Okay, we're going to go through this a little bit together here. This is your counting, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4 again, so the counting isn't too difficult. Okay, we're going to start with 3, 2, 1 on there, lined up, ready to go. Okay, so we're going to go 3, 2, 1, 3. Now to replace those. 3, 2, 1, 3. You're going to move them up and place those 3 again. 3, 2, 1. Replace those same 3. 3, 2, 1. Now on this next one, the 2 is by itself, but those 4 are placed. So you kind of be getting those ready while you're playing the 2. You're going to go 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. You just jump that 4th finger down and play the C. And then it repeats in the next measure. And then you got 2s. That's all there is to it. Okay, I'm going to give us a slow 4 count and let's play this song together. Very slowly. Okay, get your fingers all set and placed. Remember your good hand position. Put those 2 away that you aren't using. Thumb up, wrist straight, leave some room in there, and slant your fingers with a little edge. It's a lot to remember, isn't it? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready, play. Good. I hope you enjoyed Lesson 2. And please come back for Lesson 3. Go online and you can get a preview of what's on that lesson. And remember, you can buy some play-along songs and you can play at your own rate with my accompaniment, and it sounds like a duet. It's a lot of fun to do. We'll see you next time. Bye.